Welcome back to Mic Check with Mr. Anderson. You totally did not expect a Matrix quote there. How many times have you had the Matrix Mr. Anderson quote?
Well, that's how it started. That's really, yeah. So I used to have a friend that I worked with when I was a personal trainer who would always hit the Mr. Anderson, welcome back. We missed you. And then when I just started thinking when I was at OVW, I could take that. And I started using it with Maria Kanellis was the first person that ever I forced her to call me Mr. Anderson because we weren't on a first name basis. You refer to me, you respect me. So yeah, it roughly started because of the Matrix though.
That's insane. I had no idea. I just assumed that, it was a follow-on from Mr. Kennedy, but that's phenomenal. Episode 1
So it
has...
started as Mr. Anderson, and then they made me change my name in WWE.
That's right, Kamikaze Ken. Something with a K. Episode 1 dropped last Tuesday, and the response has been phenomenal. So we can't thank everybody. Ken, again, even for you, how does it feel to have all this love? The comments filling up and everything's so positive. What's that been like for you?
It's this is what it's all about, I had always hoped, I knew that I wanted to do a podcast. I'm glad that I have the team around me that I do, and you guys are phenomenal, and I really appreciate it. And I just, this is what I had envisioned.
It's phenomenal to hear. The pleasure is all yours. Did I just steal that? I'm joking. No, truly the pleasure. What is it they say? Everything's stolen in the arts and entertainment, isn't it? It's just reused.
It is really.
No, the pleasure is totally ours. It's actually been amazing just to see the amount of support that you've received and that we as a show. So we're looking forward to doing everything together. This show is now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically everywhere that has podcasts. Just type in Mic Check with Mr. Anderson and it's there. So if you can't sit here for 2 hours, for 1.5 hours and watch the show, then do so on the move. Also, if you check us out on every social that exists, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, it's X now, you will see that that's where our mailbag will go. Sometimes it might be on Instagram, sometimes it's on YouTube. That's why you got to subscribe to them all. And when you see that, get the questions in, and every week we'll make sure that we bring Mr. Anderson a little closer to the people that loved him throughout the years and still do. So tonight's episode, because we got such a great response previously and saw there were so many questions, we thought, do you know what, why don't we actually take it over to the left a little bit and do an Ask Ken, which everybody loves because they get to interact with you. A lot of people were so happy that you answered their questions. So tonight's episode will be about people asking you questions, so it can be so random. But before we get to that, let's chat a little bit about the wrestling news, what's happening. You do watch the current product often?
A little bit, especially if somebody tells me, "Hey, you need to watch such and such." I'll tune in. I'll watch that particular match or segment. I am aware of what's going on loosely.
I suppose the biggest breaking news right now is that there may be a crew of WWE stuck over in Saudi Arabia. With, to be fair though, as we sit here right now, I believe there's been a ceasefire. Do you think this, Connor, you probably know, does this make much of a difference to how the air works?
So I'm seeing news stories every few hours. I believe the flights at this moment are still a no-go. I don't think anyone's allowed to fly. No civilian flights are allowed over. But some of the crew are in Qatar, from what I've read. And I guess everyone else is going to be heading across within the next day or two. So I'm not sure. It's still up in the air. I think everyone's going to try and still make it happen. Even on the side at Saudi Arabia, they're not going to want this event to not go ahead. But it's a difficult one. But I personally think it's going to go ahead. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Ken, have you had any experiences as a talent when you worked in either TNA, WWE, or any other company for that matter, where there was an event booked and either one, you got stuck somewhere, or what does it look like internally when something
or popped off? Yeah, actually, there was a time, I don't remember, it was, I want to say 2007 or 2008, in WWE where we were booked to do a show in Israel, and a week before we were scheduled to depart, stuff started popping off like it has been, and right up until they canceled our flight literally the day before we were going to leave, and they just never rescheduled it. So yeah, I remember being in a chat group with a bunch of WWE AEW guys when the last time when the little spat went on between Vince and the Saudi prince. Live, I'm getting live updates as to like, yeah, we're sitting on the fucking tarmac here. Don't know what's going on. It was crazy.
What happened there? Because I don't think that it was ever truly, it wasn't ever explained. I know that Vince and his small circle of people got on a flight and got out of there. Left a jet.
Wait, you got a private jet. Right?
What's your recollection of that story?
See ya, bitches.
Damn, dude. Was that an argument?
Yeah, it was something. I think didn't Vince go off the air earlier, or fucking the prince or king or whatever fucking canceled the feed early. It was something like that.
No.
It was a post-show thing, right?
I think
they'd already done the show.
Yeah, I remember like a lot of the AEW talent were like, "Well, this is what happens when you go over there." Which some of those talents now work there and are away over to Saudi. So, what's it they always say in wrestling? You never say never, and it's not just about retirement, but really, I've seen a lot of wrestlers say, "I'll never do this," or they talk smack about a wrestler doing something. You give it time, it always happens. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Is that a money thing, or is it like a cash or creative? What drives it mostly? Both.
I think everything. It's sometimes it's money, sometimes it's just being convinced. Having a discussion with somebody that they see things differently, and they're able to open your eyes to thinking a different way. And okay, all right, I'm okay with that. Like, literally, like I tell my kids all the time, like, question me, go ahead, question me. Like, if I tell you to do something, aside from like if I tell you, we're running across the street, stop.
Yeah.
Don't question me there. But like, and there have been times where they'll question me on something. I'll say no, and they'll question me, and I'll think about it and go, yeah, there is no good reason why you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, I don't think it's always money. Everybody wants to like reduce everything automatically to the simplest. Well, it's just that. Well, yeah.
I actually agree with you. My daughter, this was close to Christmas time, and at the time my daughter Rosie was 4, and she was singing, "You better watch out, you better not cry," and she goes, "Why does Santa not come if you don't cry? Why is crying bad?" And I was like, "That's amazing." A 4-year-old, like, why is crying bad?
Yeah. No, I remember things like that as a kid. Like, stop crying. I don't tell my kids to stop crying.
No.
Hey, it's okay for you to cry. Just
if
you don't mind, go in your room and cry it out, whatever. Like, if it's because we can't get anything done here, but it's totally, you take all the time you need. It's good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's craziness. Another piece of wrestling news, probably the most prevalent right now, is, as always, anytime Goldberg returns to any promotion, which is, I suppose it's only WWE, but the internet are always, they're on two sides. Oh, it's Goldberg, he's just in here for... Here's what I would say to anybody, and I would actually question this for yourself, right? I can understand, everybody working really hard throughout the year, they want the spots that exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they also complain that, well, Goldberg does his certain moves, one trick pony, right? This is what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, why wouldn't you have Goldberg come back and do Goldberg? Like, you know what I mean? There has to be the Goldberg spot in wrestling. There has to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, totally.
That's his lane, right? So if you bring Goldberg back to do something, he's going to be in his lane. So we should never complain about it. What are your thoughts? I know that you're good friends with Rikishi, Jey Uso's dad, and from what it seems, again, could be totally wrong. From what it seems is that he's now no longer the champ because I think, or at least it's rumored that the Gunther versus Goldberg is a bigger match and is more realistic if Gunther can take out Goldberg, right? I suppose that makes sense. So, what are your thoughts? And I'll ask you this not as a viewer, but if you were backstage and you're working, in WWE, what would the general thought there be of Goldberg coming in, doing his last match, and everybody being in? And I think the reason they're up in arms is because this is Jey Uso's, this is his time right now. What's your thoughts on that?
Business is business at the end of the day, and what's going to do better numbers? I can see, I understand from, I think as performers, especially when you're working for a company like the WWE, you have to take your emotions out of everything and just, it's business. This is, that makes sense. And I tell you, like, the people that are hating, like, I can't think of too many people who can go away. And how old is Goldberg too? Like, he's like late 50s?
Yeah,
58, 59.
Yeah, like who for one looks like that at that age, besides Billy Gunn?
That's true.
And who can just go away and not even be talked about, not even be part of the conversation, and then just, hey guys, and pop off like that and be a draw. So, man, I think people are hating because, like, that's not me. I want to be that guy,
Totally. Have you ever spent a lot of time with Goldberg?
Love Goldberg. I got to spend some time with him, obviously post WWE, even post TNA. I think we were booked on we did a comic book convention or something like that together, and got to hang out. And he is a great guy, great human being.
He does seem that. He seems like that.
Yeah.
He's a very moralistic guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of left back in the day based on the product, and I think he's not afraid to walk away from the table, whether anything's on the table that is of great value, to stay true to who he is. So that speaks to, it speaks to who Goldberg's character is. Before we get to the questions, which, by the way, thank you to everybody that has sent in questions, because, I mean, we couldn't pick every single one, and if we didn't pick yours for this episode, please keep sending them in, because we definitely will get round to it. It's just, there's a ton. Before we do, someone, the only one negative comment I saw was someone saying, can we stop picking people with accents? I think that's rude, because I don't think there's anything wrong with your accent, Ken. There's absolutely, like,
what did they say? Can we stop using people with accents? What's wrong with my accent? No, I know I'm from the Midwest. I know that I got kind of a Canadian Uper accent a little bit sometimes. Remember SoCal Val one time, I had been at TNA for a few years, and we were having a conversation, and she's like, "Oh my God, you have an accent. I never noticed it."
I think the guy was referring to us with the accent. And I know he was, because apparently Scottish are not a mythical creature, right? I mean, you can understand me fairly well. Yeah, I
can. Like I told you, when we first started talking, I spent a considerable amount of time over there for one, and with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
So I got to be very, very, it's like my second language.
He's trained it out of himself, though. He kind of has the American kind of tone. If you can spend time with Grado, yeah, he did, from what I've seen in interviews. But if you can spend a lot of time with Grado and understand Grado, you will understand any Scottish person.
That's probably where because I did that, and that's probably actually where I picked up my ability.
Yeah. The Scottish whisperer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to anybody that my accent offends. I really wasn't able to choose my accent. I was kind of born, and if you're hating on me for
Speak American, goddammit.
All right, pal. Oh no, that was a terrible American accent.
Oh.
I'll just not do accents.
You know
I'll
what?
stick.
Great. Speaking of Grado, he has that accent, that really thick Scottish brogue, fucking, and there have been times where we were out and he would start talking and everybody would be like, what the fuck is he saying? And I would just say, hey, Grado, speak American. You go, okay, well, actually, what I was, and he has a perfect American accent. He can drop the Scottish.
No, I can imagine.
Anastasia can do the same too.
It's
the thing is,
it's the words that we say sometimes. You know, we have to be a bit more conscious in situations like this to not use too much slang. You know, on the street, so to speak. You know, we have the same accent, but the vocabulary is massively different. We couldn't talk like that online. Yeah. No one would understand us.
The funniest thing that I've become aware of is that you guys, when you talk to each other like via text, you actually speak in the slang. Like fucking is fucking, like FOOKIN.
Yeah, we do. We actually, even the way we spell words is different, and it's not that we can't spell; it's that we choose to spell, because there's almost like our tone changes when we spell different. Our tone. So we could call you a really insulting name, but based on the tone, it could be the biggest term of endearment. You know, it's something I think the Scottish have perfected.
It's like that in Australia. Like, I'm like somebody is like you're my best friend. Like
100%.
That one's the same here.
Yeah,
100%. That's as long as there's the word as a good one. Like if you say that, oh, he's a good, rather than you are one. If he's a good one, or I just seen that, you know what I mean?
He's a good.
Of course. That's the best thing you could say to someone.
Awesome.
So we're going to go over to Facebook right now. So you put out a mailbag post, and we selected a few. The first one is from Mark Kessler. Look at me. I think this week's going to be the week that I don't pronounce anybody's name wrong. And Connor's actually going to read out half of them. So I got a 50-50 chance at best.
I'm going to kick your ass!
that was a wee Scott Steiner piece there, just in case you missed it.
Beautiful.
So you're trapped on an island with Hogan, CM Punk,
God.
Bully Ray, Double J, and Steve Lombardi. Who do you think would piss you off the most? Loaded question.
Oh, God. Double J, because like he would have the guitar but not be able to play it. Right?
God, you would think after all the years of traveling with it, he would probably learn how to play it. So he doesn't play at all. No,
I don't think he does.
Oh,
I wonder
smoke in the water.
I wonder how that became his thing. That would be an interesting dive.
I think it was his character was like a rock star, because that's why
he was
a roadie.
Yeah.
Spend my days working hard on a gun. That song. So I think that's and then he just carried along with it. So your pick would be Double J.
I guess so.
I'll jump on that question there. Who would piss you off the least in that group of names?
What was it again?
It's Hulk Hogan, CM Punk, Bully Ray, Double J, and Steve Lombardi.
Probably Punk the least. I think we have a lot more in common than any of those other people.
Paul Heyman guys. Well, you were in Aces and Eights with Bully Ray, but I suppose you were enemies.
Not anymore. Mike checked him into the coffin. If you remember, Manchester.
Totally. Well, there you have it. So the second question is from Stuart Cox. Look at all these people with the semi-normal names. 2007 Royal Rumble title match versus Batista. Was there any possibilities or talk about you winning that match? And looking back at that match, what would you rate it and the finish?
I have no recollection of it whatsoever. No, I do recall the match taking place, but I haven't seen it in years. As far as me going over in that match, no clue. For the most part, it was just when my time at WWE, I would show up. What do you want me to do? Do this?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. That's pretty much it. You know, some talent are very part of the whole process, and I never was. I never wanted to petition for myself to win matches or things like that. Just tell me what story we're telling, and let's figure out
Do you
how
regret
best
that?
we can do that. No, not too much. I mean, there are some situations, like I guess the Money in the Bank thing, when Steph called me and said, "Hey, we need to get that briefcase off of you because, you know, I kind of wish I would have maybe suggested, hey, I've got a year to cash that baby in. Could we maybe figure it a different way? I can hold on to it. I can go away." Because I was only going to be gone for, I think, 8 or 9 months. So that's the only thing that I wish that I maybe had suggested.
Do you think that you could have still done TV during that 8 or 9 months?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing about working for WWE. When I was hurt, the times that I was hurt, I was still working because you're still doing appearances and even in-person appearances. Like there were tons of, you know, I remember doing up in Canada, up in like British Columbia, we had almost what is that show where they go around the world? They drop them off in different locations and they give them tasks, and the Amazing Race. It was sort of like an Amazing Race in British Columbia. You know, and I did that while I was injured. There was always something going on.
Here's a question for you. This is just a yes or no, right? Because something we'll get in much later. Do you think then, based on what you know there, that there was a bigger plan and it was not just about you being injured, that perhaps they wanted that case off you for other reasons? Just yes or no?
No.
That's good to know. I suppose that was, I think at that point you're probably still in a lot of the good graces because this is the time where you're holding the Money in the Bank. There was obviously a big future plans for you. Well, that's good to know because it would be quite sad if that was the case.
Well, for some people, I'm sure that I was in good graces of the right people for that particular time, but
yeah,
I'm sure that other people went the other way with it, you know. So
let's get this case off them.
I know that other people went the other way with it.
Yeah, and here's the thing as well. Some superstars had some of their best stuff while they were injured and couldn't actually get in the ring, you know. And you've even said it, even in episode 1, that it's the stuff between the matches, it's the stuff between the moves. So if anything, you know, we would have all benefited. Can you imagine, like, even this is how if I had the pencil, I would be like, who was the GM at that time? Do you remember, Connor? You're usually good.
Was it not Teddy Long?
Right. So I would have had Teddy Long create a stipulation that no one touches you, the person with the Money in the Bank, for some reason, and allow you just to get in everybody's face. You remember how much heat Michael Cole had when he had that big box around him? You know, obviously, I wouldn't go too ha-ha with it, but I would definitely make it so that you're right in everybody's face and have it so that no one can touch you. And then if you don't get better, someone will take it from you, and that'll be the big moment. Or you cash in, and then it's even better.
To generate heat, just that constant, nothing worse than a heel that you cannot touch.
Michael Cole with the box
around just outside of reach.
Yes, I thought that was brilliant. And I think your character would have thrived heavily on that. But you know, it is what it is, right? Another question here from Ultimate Wrestling Trivia. Your October 2007 WWE Magazine cover is awesome. Walk us through the process of that moment. Thanks.
First of all, you guys need to check out that Ultimate Wrestling Trivia. That's a good friend of mine. That's actually the guy who owns that is the guy who trained me.
No way.
Yeah, so everybody needs to check that out. That's really cool.
Definitely will.
That process was super, super cool. I remember going up to, I believe it was in Stanford, and we just I dropped the pen and my wife crawled all the way over here, low crawled, and pen up through.
She's
Thanks,
a
honey. Just for me to smooth it off. She went through this like, oh, I spilled coffee on you too. Oh my god.
Oh no.
You okay? So no, we went to Stanford and they had a whole setup. I remember they had this huge chunk of ice, and we did it in layers. So like, it was a couple of shots of me just up against the background, and then they had me stick my hand through this hole that was cut into an actual block of ice and grab a microphone. And if you look closely, the picture doesn't perfectly line up. It's like my arm doesn't. It looks like it's kind of detached. So it's a picture of me screaming, and my hand is like grabbing, and I'm looking through a block of ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was real ice then.
It was. Yep. Cool. Like probably spent 3 or 4 hours doing it. The thing about the WWE, and I got to experience this in, just time and time again, was the ID shoots. Every once in a while you'll see in the intro or the build up to a certain match, you see the superstar looking at the camera, doing a bunch of different poses and rotating on. I remember they had this thing where we would rotate and they took different shots. I remember the first thing I ever did, we went into this big room and they had like a waterfall behind us, and there was fire sometimes. We did one in an old abandoned, supposedly haunted prison in Philadelphia. That was the build up for, I remember that was for the build up to WrestleMania 23. So just some really cool stuff that I got to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, because you always wonder. It's the same with TV series as well through here in the UK. And when you actually see them, whether it be something like the X Factor, I think you had that in the US for a while, and you would see a judge making a decision, but then it's like what we don't see behind the scenes is that judge has to walk up to the wee bridge that she's on, stand like that, and then because I've been on the other end, I've been the guy telling them what to do. It's like, okay, so just slowly look to the left, almost look disappointed, right around, and perfect. Let's do it again.
Yep, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great because it builds a story. And do you know what? Is it a lost art that growing up watching all the big, when we called them the PPVs, the pay-per-views, it used to be amazing when the show would start and there was a big produced segment, and it would have people like The Rock, Undertaker, they're all talking about what's happened, and it would always, I love stuff like Unforgiven, and Undertaker would be like, you only get one chance, proper in character. Those things used to hype, and then it would cut straight to the arena, everybody's going off their head, there's pyro everywhere. Man, bring that shit back. It's not hard. Yeah, well, it's hard, but what I'm saying is it's not hard. If you ask a fan, what do you love most about them? Now I feel that with the TKO and all the new management, they've really stripped away, and I understand cost-cutting measures, but man, that shit was so exciting. That's what really set you up for the start of it. You didn't need the first opening match. Didn't matter. That intro is what done it, and it's a shame now that that's not the case. But everything in wrestling is ups and downs in it. I think it will return eventually, or maybe even just for the bigger shows.
The biggest thing that's missing for me, and I don't know if you've noticed over time, but it's the entrance videos rather than actually being videos.
Yeah.
It's just graphics now. Other than I think Logan Paul is the only one in WWE who still has that. And once you realise that, it just
what do you mean?
I miss them so much. So
Orton's
the Titantron
kick off. when he was at the minute, when Randy Orton's song hits,
Yeah.
when the beat drops, Evan Bourne landed as shooting star press into a RKO, and you would see, so in the background it show you somebody getting done in. Who was it? What wrestler was it that had himself getting done in? It was Christian. It was Christian.
Yeah.
Christian's own Titantron had him getting done in.
Oh, really?
Here, settle this for me, right? It's often been said that Vince just didn't see anything in Christian, to the point it was all like, who was it? What's his name? Matt Striker or someone had said that.
Was it Todd Grisham on ECW?
Todd Grisham, when Christian returned,
Christian.
don't sell it. Like when he comes out, and then you go back and watch, and he just goes, "It's Christian." And there's no like, "Oh my God, Christian's back," or nothing. I've heard so many times. Have you ever witnessed in any way or nothing that would suggest that Vince didn't see it in Christian? Nothing.
No, not that I've seen. I have a funny Christian story, and we still like pop each other with this every time we see, every time we run into him. I could text him right now. And so I had just started on the road, and I was doing house shows, and the main event on the house shows was Christian Booker T. And they were going on and absolutely killing it. It was very, very funny match, very entertaining. People wrestle slightly differently on house shows, right? Like you get more comedic stuff, and you get a little more interaction with the crowd. So anyway, he comes back, and I just said, "Hey, Christian," I said, "Thanks for the house, man." And he went, "Yeah, no problem." And he paused, and he was like, "Hang on a second. Come here for a second." He goes, "What did you mean by that?" And I was like, "Well, I just started here. They don't know who I am. So they're here to see you. I wanted to thank you for drawing people in, putting food on my table, so to speak." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, that's cool." He goes, "Did you happen to see the attendance there tonight?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I remember thinking it was like really, really light. Like, there was like 3/4 of the building that was empty. And he was just like, in future, somebody might take that the wrong way. So every time I see him now, "Hey, thanks for the house, pal."
That's hilarious, because I think he probably thought that you meant that was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like
he knew what I meant. He was just fucking, he was just being funny.
That is brilliant, though. That is actually it's a brilliant way to thank someone for a house being light. It's probably a great.
Hey, thanks for the house, pal.
Excellent. Hey, before we move on for Christian, actually, he's someone, again, we spoke about last week, that probably doesn't get the flowers they deserve. And I remember John Moxley saying that he thought he was a good wrestler until he wrestled Christian. How good is Christian? Just business sense, in-ring ability, just as an overall package, in your opinion?
It just, as you said, hasn't gotten his proper flowers. Like, amazing. Just the brain that he has. He came up with so many finishes, and for matches that he wasn't even involved in WWE. So everybody behind the scenes knows that about Christian, knows that like he's the guy. If you have a problem, if you can't figure out how do we sell this, what do we need to do to put a nice bow on this, go to Christian and ask him.
Amazing. He's doing really well over in AEW as well. A lot of people saying it's the best work of his career. I think his career in itself is a whole package of just amazing. I've always been a Christian guy. That still cracks me up.
He's so funny. Remember him doing the fucking
the crybaby stuff. And by the way, that Christian theme after he broke off with Edge with the big sparks coming down at the back, that was a banging theme. That was amazing. He should totally bring that back. But yeah, Christian, phenomenal. We should do an episode about Christian at some point. Definitely. Stone Young says, explain why you don't like leg slapping again.
I fucking hate it. I don't, guys, help me understand what I'm missing. That it's just, What am I missing? Why is it? Why? Why? You can see it. We all know that wrestling isn't real, right? Like we're not actually. Yes, it's physical and it hurts, but the whole goal is it's simulated combat. It's to make us look like, it's to get people to suspend their disbelief, right? Like when you go watch, I'm just gonna date myself here, Jurassic Park, right? Like you watch Jurassic Park, you know that there literally isn't an island somewhere where there's fucking dinosaurs, that they brought dinosaurs back. We know that that's not possible.
Yeah.
But because the special effects are so good, you suspend your disbelief. If you were watching that and you could see the wires and you could see somebody like puppeteering or it was like a really bad, really, really bad CGI, you would go, ah. Like, there are movies out there that you can watch a movie, you can be totally bought in. It's just a great story, great storytelling, great acting, and then there's just like a bad batch of CGI, and it just completely ruins the movie. Mm-hmm. And somebody will ask you, "Hey, what'd you think of the movie?" It was okay. And I just don't understand why. Like we work so hard at perfecting our craft, but just openly in front of the camera, like repeatedly. And then people will post videos and pictures of themselves doing it in slow motion.
Oh no!
See slow mo, and then the guys that really do it, like I'm talking, you want a drinking game? Pick. I don't care who it is, because they all do it now. Like everybody that's on TV, pick a show, and every time there's a leg slap, take a shot. You actually don't do that, because like that we might be talking alcohol poisoning by hour 1.
Yeah, that and running it alcohol.
Sometimes match 1, match 2. I cannot. It is useful when hidden. Shawn Michaels did it, but he did it one time in a match, and he did it at a specific time. And it was like he did it with, his whole body was involved. His arms are moving. It makes sense. And I'll tell you what, like people are going to go like, well, you did it. And then they're going to show videos of me doing it. I did. I did. And I regret it. And I'll tell you, I promise you, it's one of those situations where if I go back and I watch a match of mine and I see myself do it, I just did it the other day. And I went like, oh, fuck. Why? Can you break that down for me? Like, what is it? Why is it so? Why do we just say fuck it at that particular?
I think from a fan perspective, and that's really all I am. When we watch that, like when it's done effectively, like you say, and I do recall the time where the world heavyweight champion was Dolph Ziggler. It was his time that he won it, and Alberto Del Rio took the title from him. Mm-hmm. Del Rio was kicking him in the head, and I heard rumblings. It was a friend of mine had told me, "Oh, Dolph Ziggler has to lose the title because he has an issue with his head." Don't know if it was true or not. Right, he had a concussion or something that meant he had to lose the title. Mm-hmm. And the next thing, Monday Night Raw, he did lose the title, and it was to the point where I was like, if for in real, if he's got concussion, why is Del Rio booting him in the head like that? I genuinely was like, fuck me, like, because I couldn't see it. All right, so their desired impact totally affected me, because I'm literally worried for this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my god, he's got head issues and he's getting kicked, and then he lost the title, and I remember going, fuck me, like, 1, Del Rio's a badass, 2, get well soon, Dolph Ziggler, right? So for when that's used like that, for one, I think the reason I was so worried for him is because I'd heard that he had a concussion in real life. Mm-hmm. And thought, wow, why would you even pretend to kick him in the head? Don't go anywhere near his head. Sure, yeah. So there was an element of realism in there. Couple that with using something correctly at the correct time, because I believed something that was already there within me. Yep. I think, same with the DDT, I think there are certain moves in wrestling that don't need to be overused. and I'm a strong believer. And I remember staying up late to watch Shawn Michaels. Like my best friend is the biggest Shawn Michaels fan, right? And we would always watch the pay-per-views together. We'd stay up late and we'd watch it. And I remember, I think it was Taker versus Shawn Michaels, and I was rooting for Taker. He was rooting for Shawn Michaels, and there came a point in the match where where Shawn Michaels went down, and he done that thing where he proper just plants on the ground and he shakes. And my mate, who's the biggest Shawn Michaels fan, went, "He's done," and correct, he was done because he'd taken a finisher, and he was done. We were told. Now I think it's mixed because we're seeing these moves that used to be so devastating, right? If you think a super kick was to take out someone like Kane back in the day, and now it can take out a young buck, what changed? Or is it the person doing the super kick? That's what Jake Snake says. You know, it's fine, everybody can do a DDT, but when Jake does it, the match is over. You know, and I think truly that's all it is. I think people are trying to be devastating when necessarily I think they keep saying the business has changed. What I'm watching, right, never had to change. The people changed, but the fundamentals of it did. I don't think that you need devastating moves. It's the things between the moves. Make me care, and that's all you essentially need. I think people are just trying to, I wouldn't say easy mode, but they're trying to get instant desired effects, and that's why the leg slap and all that. Yep. I could be wrong. That's my interpretation as a fan.
Because the thinking, I think, is that, and here's the thing, everything sounds the same, right? A punch sounds the same as a forearm, sounds the same as a chop, sounds the same as a kick to the midsection. But I had a thought there. What was I?
It's the ooh.
Oh, they get the fucking ooh. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. They think, people that use it think every time they hit it, the crowd goes ooh, because they're just conditioned to hear sound. It's like when somebody takes the steel steps, you hear that crash and people naturally go ooh, or they get a chair shot or something like that. I think that's what they're after. And oftentimes, I watch it all the time because like it'll be like a sequence of 3 kick moves. Mm-hmm. It'll be a kick up and then another kick and then another kick, and they in their head think, oh, every time this happens, there's an ooh, and I don't believe that's the case.
And then there's a kick out straight after it. You know, just a quick side note here. The first time I ever truly saw like the reach of what a true wrestling superstar and wrestling done right was, my wife is not a wrestling fan, right? She played the games when she was younger, so she knows who Stone Cold is, she knows who The Rock is. That's as far as it goes. I said to her many years ago, WrestleMania 30, leading up to there, I says, can we watch WrestleMania together? Like, I'd love this. Like, come into my world, I'll do whatever you want, you come into my world for a night. Okay. So I showed her the build to WrestleMania 30, and I said, this is Daniel Bryan. He's someone that they don't want to succeed, etc. Gave her the lowdown, enough for her to go, okay, I get what's going on here. By the end, right, bear in mind, she's watching a story. By the end of that, we had tickets to, not WrestleMania, we had tickets to the next Scottish show, to WWE, and she ordered herself a Daniel Bryan t-shirt. She's not a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So think about the gravity of what he was able to do purely based on character. And of course, like Daniel Bryan's like, I mean, I imagine you guys agree, he's one of the greatest in ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be though. It's all about story, underdog, and that to me was like, wow, that's when you know it's done right. She didn't even like wrestling, and she's ordered us tickets to go and see it live, which Daniel Bryan wasn't at. Unfortunately, he had relinquished the title because he had an injury, so that was that. But that was great. It was great for me to experience that as a wrestling fan, to watch someone that hadn't been a wrestling fan then totally invest based on someone's story. And it wasn't kicks. It wasn't anything. It was nothing special in ring. It was a story. You know, craziness.
I think there's a parallel here, but like Nick Dinsmore is one of the best wrestlers. He's up there with like a Daniel Bryan. Like I think he can wrestle circles around most people. And when he started doing the Eugene character, he realized that like to tell that story and to draw people in, he didn't need to do all that. And so he specifically stopped doing all this shit that he can do and do well.
That's amazing.
You know?
Did you know Nick Dinsmore's name isn't in that conversation among the fans when you talk about who some of the greatest wrestlers are? Like, because we assume that the greatest wrestlers are the ones that can do all the technical stuff, but I suppose it's the people that know when they don't need to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those will probably be the best wrestlers. Mental.
You
So
also
the
think
thing
of the
is-
people who have been rewarded for it too. You know, you think of people who have had
course.
titles. You know, if someone hasn't had that, despite how good they are, they often aren't in the conversation, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Richards was absolutely brilliant at the job he was given, right? I think like I would much rather meet Stevie Richards than meet John Cena, truly, because one, he's a wealth of knowledge, but two, like he's seen the business from another side, you know what I mean, which is unfair, and he said it himself on his own show, like he gets treated less than by his peers in certain aspects, and he goes, well, you're treating me like this, but you're putting me in this position. I could be anything, but you put me here. And then you treat me like this for like it's so unfair, isn't it? When you think about it, it's no other job exists like that, does it?
No, I don't think so. Where you do everything that's expected of you and then you don't get rewarded for it. I have an interesting Stevie Richards story, and like I want to preface this by saying like there's no ill will, no hard feelings. I completely understand that he and I are like I consider him like a friend, not a great friend, but like, we're definitely, we're okay. But when I first debuted on TV, I did my first 3 weeks were velocity matches. They were just squash matches, except for Funaki. So I wrestled Funaki, and then the next 2 weeks I squashed local guys. And then I debuted on SmackDown against Funaki again. And then I started doing some squash matches. And Stevie Richards had been, he had a match right around that time where he had a match on Sunday Night Heat, I believe. And he crushed it. And Vince would always give the brass ring speech once a year or once every 6 months. You guys have to grab, that's right there waiting for you guys to grab it. Somebody grab it. I'm begging you. And so, they actually called a meeting in catering, wheeled out the television, popped in the VHS tape of Stevie's match and said, this is what we're looking for. This is a perfect example of Stevie did everything that we wanted. It was like just like I said, it was on Sunday Night Heat. It wasn't even on their main show.
Stevie Night Heat.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so then follow that up with the very next week. Hey, we want you to basically put this new guy over, Mr. Kennedy. We just want him to squash you, basically. And he said no. And it wasn't like he just said it no outright. It was like, you just told me that doesn't align with what you're asking me to do now. And and the thing is like, it takes balls to do something like that. He stood on business, and it just didn't work out for him in that case. Like, they sent him home, I think. We didn't see Stevie for quite a while after that.
That sucks.
But again, I completely understand what he did. It wasn't a personal dig or a personal attack against me. So
it's a shame. I'll always sing Stevie's praises. I thought his heel character in The Right to Censor was phenomenal. I thought that was some of his greatest work. I had the action figure of Stevie as a kid. This wee tie, the wee rubber tie that used to be on his action figure, actually came off, gutted. But it was a great faction, and a huge fan of Stevie. And I think it's good that he was like, you know what, I deserve better than that.
Yep.
And he went on to TNA, and he's got an amazing show that he does right now as well. So big up to Stevie Richards, what a guy. Marcus Dodd says, what in your opinion makes a title relevant?
I guess for one, not hot-shotting it around, making it mean something. One thing that I noticed that Paul Heyman would do when he came down to OVW was, and this is something that has sort of always bothered me about wrestling, is that there's only like one person ever going after the title. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And what Paul would do was everybody was going after the title. It's the most important thing in the company. It's like, and then you have all these different storylines that are converging, going, attempting to go after the one thing. So then when you have an injury or somebody gets called up or somebody gets in trouble or whatever, and you have to pivot, you're able to just, it's not like you build CM Punk versus Mr. Kennedy for months and months and months, and then Mr. Kennedy gets in trouble. And so now you have to figure out, what do we do? How do we? You just slide right over, and everybody. Does that make sense? Like, everybody's going after the title.
Yeah.
I mean, in your opinion, what is like the perfect balance between not hot-shotting the title around, but also, title reigns like what Roman just had, 3.5 years? What is the perfect balance there?
I know. I kind of like the fact that he held on to it for as long as he did. And I wouldn't be against it. I think in that particular instance, we knew it was time. It was time to put it on Cody. Right? Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
When Cody lost that first WrestleMania, I went, hold on, this is not all bad, actually.
Yeah.
And what a moment when Cody actually did win. And not like, it could be for anybody, right? To the point where the ring announcer can't formulate a sentence because she's so emotionally attached to what she's seeing. Like, that's when you know that it was totally right. And you know what as well? One of my favorite parts about that match is Cody wins, place goes mental, right? But as Roman leaves the arena, the crowd turn to Roman and they're like,
yes.
It changed. That essentially turned him babyface because people appreciated this doesn't happen without you. And that was so powerful to the point he comes back and now he's loved. I've spoke to Connor many times about there's a lot of superstars, and I think maybe they all go through it, where they're stuck in the big dog, where that there's something in there that could just be massive, that their greatness has yet to be achieved because they're at their big dog stage. Roman Reigns for so long was at that, you could see it in his face, almost like he didn't know who he was. The minute he paired with Paul Heyman and became the tribal chief, there it is. And we never think about him now as the big dog. And one I would say, this is just personal, I think Damian Priest's in the big dog stage right now. I think there's greatness in him. I don't think he truly knows what he is yet. As a fan, that's my perspective on that. And I think when that click happens, I think you'll see Damian Priest's greatest. There's another episode we could do in the future, who's still in the big dog stage. And actually, for everybody that's watching this, in the comments below, tell us who you think is in the big dog stage. People that have great potential, that have the ability to really be amazing, but are yet, for whatever reason, stuck in that stage where they're yet to take the next step. In fact, who do you think, Ken? Even if it's someone from your time or current product, who do you think, or maybe never got a chance to ever get to their big dog, their tribal chief, but were stuck in big dog?
Oh man! Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. I think MVP. Like, MVP could have been in that. Who never got past the. He had the character. He could talk. Solid in-ring performer.
Yeah. I think with his current character right now, the walking stick, almost like the wise guy, he's the wise guy you don't cross, not only because his guys will kick your ass, but it's believable that he'll kick your ass. Is he a badass in real life also?
I think he is, yeah.
I think he is. I mean, I've read a few stories. Again,
yeah, I mean, he spent, the guy spent 9 years in prison, hard.
Yeah.
and he's I'm pretty sure like he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Like he's actually a legit fighter. Like he knows what he's doing. I don't know. I've never seen him in action. Never seen him actually fight somebody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, MVP, good work, and I'm glad to see that he's still. There was a time there I thought, he maybe would kind of hang it up, but to see him just so full force right now in AEW, probably one of the best things about AEW right now. Actually.
Yeah, it's really entertaining to watch. Can I say something? The whole walking stick thing just reminded me of something that just happened to me a few months ago on an indie show. This is crazy. I was wrestling a guy. He was very green. And for the finish of the match, this guy's manager is gonna slide. He's got a fucking cane. He's gonna slide it in, but I catch it. I step on it as he goes to grab it. Right? I step on it, and then we were gonna go into the finish. Well, when the guy slid it into the ring, he like it was supposed to be flat, but he like picked it up like this. So when I stepped on it, it snapped, like it shattered, and it was like a metal. The interior was made out of metal, and then it was like almost like a pool cue on the outside. So it shattered into a bunch of pieces. Oh, no. And we go through the finish, and I walk to the back, and I get to the locker room, and the dude is sitting there like this.
Got it.
And I was like, "What's up, man? What's up?" And he's like, "That fucking cane." He goes, "That was my girlfriend gave that to me. It was the last thing she gave to me before she died."
Oh no!
Yeah, fuck.
Well, he probably shouldn't have used it as a prop in a fucking wrestling match, no?
I mean, there is that, right? Like
accountability. It's like
I just felt so terrible. I still feel terrible about it, but crazy.
I mean, imagine like, so that was the planned spot, So what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Stamping on a cane,
Because he just never thought of like the variables of it possibly getting, all.
It's pretty cool that Mr. Anderson snapped his cane. Could be a lot worse. Imagine it was just
He's got it taped together now, and
and he'll always have a cool Mr. Anderson story.
He's got it in a shatter box with all the little pieces.
Oh man!
Just tape it.
Just next to his shattered heart.
Right.
What a shame, but hey, that accountability. That's what happens, If you're going to use something as a prop, maybe don't have it be something that's so sentimental to you. If anything, have that, or like, when's the rematch? There's a story.
Yeah.
Use it, brother.
My apologies go out to that individual. Like, I'm so sorry.
Sore one. Larson Gruber. Look at me on fire with the names this week. Larson Gruber.
That's a tough one, too. That's a tough name.
I know. Do you know Hans Gruber from Die Hard? That's why I was able to roll off the tongue with that one. He asks, how has independent wrestling changed from when you first started training to now?
That's one of my students, actually, a former student of mine. I think there's a lot that's changed. One of the things that I notice is whenever there was like a name talent that would come by a show, I personally, as well as half the rest of the locker room, would first make an effort to go and introduce myself to that person, and then sort of, without being annoying, pick their brain a little bit. I want you've been to the place that I want to be. Like, how do I get there? What's something that I can take from you? Or at the very least, like, hey, is there any way that you could watch my match and give me some feedback? Sometimes it's a no. Sometimes it's, what, I can't because I'm too frazzled, or I just can't be fucked, or whatever. I've never been told that. I've actually never been told that by anybody before, but I've learned a lot just by doing that, and I feel like that's sort of missing. I'll go to shows, and then the other thing that I really, this really bothers me too, is that when I started, and we talked about this a little bit last time with WWE, if you were on match 1 on a house show, you were sitting at that monitor watching until the end. Even the main event guys were doing it. You weren't jumping in, you weren't showering up and then jumping in the car. All right, sayonara, see you later, guys. I have worked the main event on indie shows where there's like 10 people in the locker room by the end of the night, because everybody, match 1 is a tag match. All 4 guys get their shit on, and then they're like, hey, it was really nice to meet you. I got to go. I got a 2.5 hour ride. It was like factored into our day. Hey, we're going to be there until the show. Even if we did have a 2.5 hour, 3.5 hour drive, we weren't going to be able to get on the road until 11 o'clock, because not only did we have to stay and watch the whole show, we had to help with ring crew. That's just part of the business. I don't know what the deal is. It's lost. It's gone away.
When I briefly trained here in Scotland, maybe 15, close to 20 years ago. God, was it even that long ago? And was it about 2008, 9, 10, roughly that's when it started. It was very accustomed that when you pay to train, so you pay to wrestle. When you get good at bumping, you can essentially be fodder for the whoever the main people are in that town. But part of building, we had to build the ring to the point where we had to I remember before a show once, we had to go and find a welder to weld the turnbuckle because it had broken. And it's like the minute one issue arose, it's everybody's problem. So I know that at least 15 years ago, that was still the thing. I don't know what's happening nowadays, but I know that the Scottish scene definitely is in good hands, because a lot of the guys that are doing training now are a lot of people that you've worked with. There are a lot of people that have got a lot of great experience and still have that type of old school mentality. It's exactly that. I remember, I don't know if you'll ever remember this guy. I don't know if he even made it, but he was on ECW as like an enhancement talent, and he wrestled Vance Archer at the time. I think he's Lance Archer now in AEW. His name was Rotunda, and he came to town and he looked. That's when someone walks in the locker room that looks like a WWE star, and you go, "Oh, okay, this is what they're supposed to look like." On TV, he's enhancement, but in our locker room, holy shit, he looks like a WWE star. And he came in and wrestled one of our guys, and I remember going up to him after the show and going, how was that for you, wrestling one of our guys? And he turned and went, fine, and put his back to me. I went, okay. Kind of puts you off, because you're like, am I bothering you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still kick his head in though, I wasn't scared of him or anything. I just, you never. There's a fine line, and I asked you that last week, where, even going up to Benoit and Eddie, and just being like, can I travel with you guys? There is a part of you there that it's not intimidation, but you're like, am I going to really be a hassle here, asking something of him? You know what I mean? Because it's that type of dog eat dog. And by the way, we had such a great feedback on Benoit and Eddie. Is there any wee tidbits that you maybe would have missed out from your time traveling with Eddie and Benoit?
There's a couple different scenarios. One that just pops out in my brain is one of those mornings. Eddie stayed back for whatever reason for breakfast. I think we had to go. I think call time was at noon, so he wanted to sleep in. And Chris and I went to breakfast, and then we went to the gym quick. Then we went back, showered up, grabbed Eddie, went to the venue, and we were at breakfast. And I ordered an omelet and some fresh fruit, a bowl of oatmeal. I'm eating pretty clean, and I didn't realize it was one of those places where the omelet is the size of a plate, and the bowl of oatmeal was, 3 bowls of oatmeal at any normal restaurant. It was one of those crazy things. And I ate half my food, and I kind of pushed it away. We were talking, and then Chris was like, aren't you, you're not going to eat that? You're not going to eat all your food? I was like, no, man, I'm not that hungry. He goes, you should force feed yourself. And And in that moment, I was like, "Oh, this is a test," because he's just fucking with me to see if I'll go like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I guess you're right, sir. I'll force feed myself." And I went like, "No, I'm good. No, thank you." And he just popped, and that was it. That was the end of it. he would just do stuff like that, just to see how far he could push it.
Yeah, I think I thought you were going to tell me that story ended with you in the ring doing the jumping squats, pissing blood the next week, all because of oatmeal.